Hey, it's the Road Show. I'm Ryan. Allen's here in the UK.
Hello.
How's it going, Alan?
Yeah, really good, really good.
Good.
The sun is out now in England, so cars are out, car shows are on. I'm driving with the roof down. It's a good time. So
Nice, nice. Life is good. Yeah, it's nice here too. It was chilly last couple of days. It was like in the 50s and 60s. We went down, or I went down to Porsche, Colorado Springs last night. They do their annual Pikes Peak International Hill Climb driver meet and greet, which is always a great event. Like, I don't know if most
yeah,
Porsche dealerships are like this, Alan, but shout out to Porsche Colorado Springs. You know, I bought my GT4 there. I'm friends with most of those guys. It is, it's just a step above any other Porsche dealership that I know of in the U.S. You know, there's the regular, the new car showroom, but they've got this classic showroom as well, which is fantastic. I mean, they're a Singer dealership. I mean, you go into the showroom, you know, and it's basically every car ever made in speed yellow. I mean, it's like a museum, right? And just a great staff, and obviously they're very involved with the hill climb and this and that. It was weather wasn't ideal last night, but it was just a great event. It was so they've
yeah.
got
They do seem really active as well, and obviously they do some stuff
yeah,
online. I follow them as well, and yeah, it's a gift to have an event like Pikes Peak. It's almost in their backyard, isn't it?
it
What an
is. It is.
amazing opportunity to capitalize on it.
It is. If you don't know Colorado Springs is not a big city, right? It's quite a bit smaller than, say, Denver, which I guess is the big city in Colorado. I know is the big city in Colorado. I live there. I guess big city is relative. But we've got two dealerships here in town in Denver. They're fine. There's a great little dealership up in Fort Collins. But Colorado Springs, Porsche of Colorado Springs is this sort of outsized, I don't know, it's got this outsized gravity to it. And I think so much of that is because it is at the base of Pikes Peak, right? The race history. They support the
Right.
cars. They have supported the cars over the years. They run cars. It becomes sort of like home base for a lot of the teams. You know, if they need something, the garages are going 24/7. It's just, there's a palpable energy there, which is,
Yeah, and a lot of dealerships, they don't need to do these things. They're all
yeah,
sort of sales number driven and incentive programs, but they are committed. Like say, they've got the museum. Porsche in the US do like a dealership restoration challenge as well, which is really cool. And then having drivers in it, it helps bring people through the door, plants that seed for younger people who aspire to do something, and also for people like you and I, it brings us back and you see the next model, and we've both gone on the Porsche journey over the years as
yeah.
well. So yeah, it's really cool, and they're great guys as well.
They
They
really
do
are. Yeah,
a
you
lot of
know them
stuff
all.
online.
Yeah, yeah, by
Yeah.
Instagram, if nothing else. And it was fun to see a lot of the listeners of the steering committee, and people are very excited about the road show. Handed out several stickers, that kind of thing.
Oh, there you go.
They had this driver panel, which is always cool. Every seat in the house was filled. Lonnie Unser, David Donahue, Hurley
Wow.
Haywood, Romain Dumas. I mean, it's Tanner Faust, Jeff Zwart always moderates the thing, which is pretty cool. I don't know how that man does it all. I feel like he's just everywhere, always doing everything. It was just really a great event. I guess Yokohama sponsors it, underwrites it, so they're giving away T-shirts. There were food trucks, DJ.
Oh, wow.
It was just awesome. And then one of the best parts about the day was meeting up with some friends and going to a place called Edelweiss Restaurant, which is a German restaurant in Colorado Springs. I had never been. I used to hang out at this old man bar in Chicago called Ressi's Bierstube, and I hadn't had a good German meal like that since I left Chicago 9-10 years ago.
A
I
good
had
German meal. I love that.
it was the best, the Rahmschnitzel and Spätzle and a couple of beers. And if you're ever in Colorado Springs, and I think maybe I'm going to try to drag Dan Pilling there while he's in town. It was fantastic. A lot of these like German restaurants are a little dusty, right? They're a little you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
they're not booming like maybe they were at one time. This place seemed vibrant. The food was great, great space, and it was just a really nice evening with friends. And it's a pretty strong Porsche community here, which is cool, with a wonderful
Good.
dealership that we
Yeah,
have
and
at our
I guess those
disposal.
restaurants probably serve beer that you can chew on as well. So it's
Yeah,
pretty heavy stuff.
a
So
little bit of that. Yeah, it was awesome. So shout out to Colin and Sven and the rest of the gang that met up with us last night.
awesome.
The weird thing was there was a chance of storms, and so didn't want the GT4 to melt, so I drove our Volkswagen Tiguan down there.
Yep.
And this is, if you don't know, I probably talk about this car as much as the GT4. It's a 2017 Tiguan we bought new. It's got about 67,000 miles on it. Knock on wood, never had an issue with the thing. It's been a great car for the most part. But I pulled onto the Interstate 25, if you know Denver, going down south to Colorado Springs last night. And beautiful day, 60s, sun, check engine light comes on. Oh, no, but it felt fine. It wasn't flashing. First thing I thought of was like, well, which person that I know will be at the dealership is going to have an OBD2 reader in their car? Because most of them do.
You don't carry one with you.
I'm one of the few people I know.
Arms reach away. So.
Okay, right. So, yeah, I made it down. There was no loss of power or anything. And, it's always something, right? I was kind of, it was just in for an easy cruise. And apparently it's an intake manifold flap or something, and it is a known thing. I did a little digging, went down the Reddit rabbit hole last night. Apparently, Volkswagen has extended this thing. They did a technical service bulletin, and so you could tell me how that works. It's not quite a warranty, but it's like if someone brings it to their attention, it's not a recall. But if someone has a problem,
advisory.
then
it's
an
safety
advisor
issue.
Yeah. And so it's covered for 10 years, 120,000 miles. Apparently, it doesn't really affect drivability. It's more of an air gasoline, air fuel mix thing, more of an emissions thing. So
the engine warning light, that's basically for dealers. That's the money making button. That's it. You're going to go in. You've got to do your diagnostics. Hello, sir. Yeah. Yes, here's our diagnostics rate. Which you stand there and you go, all you're doing is plugging something in, and I'm going to write you a check for a couple of hundred.
Yes.
And then it's, we've got to try and find it. And they might plug and play with a few things. There's still no guarantee they're going to know exactly what it is. So knowing that they have that flap and it's a known thing, then, you could come out of this cheaply. But normally you start chasing things around, and that's when you do the dishonorable thing and sell it to somebody else. So
it's funny you mentioned that, because that also crossed my mind, because we were able to clear the code, and I thought, geez, maybe this is what I was kind of hoping the OBD reader was going to come back and just say, get rid of it, right? Spell it out on the screen. And in fact, it was this smaller thing. But it's funny you mentioned sort of the dealer response, because much like the Porsche dealerships, we have several Volkswagen dealerships here in town. We have the place we bought it from. I won't name names. Over the years, what was once a really proud dealership has sort of declined, especially in the service department. And what I mean by that is you'll bring your car in and you'll say, you'll put a Post-it note that says, do not run through the car wash. You'll tell the person. Then you get it back and it's dripping. They've ripped off the bike rack before, It's just, it's that kind of stuff. It's, and if they're not paying attention with that, who knows what they're not paying attention to, things like leaving plastic caps undone. And I just don't have time for that. And so I'm such a funny OCD car owner that
you are.
I'm taking the thing up to Fort Collins to get fixed. And the reason why, to your point, is I called 2 dealerships here. The first one I couldn't even get through. I just got this, voicemail sort of tag game going on. And then I called a second dealership, which is a legacy dealership, one of the first 6 or 7 Volkswagen dealerships in the country. So I thought, well, you know what? A little bit of a drive here in Denver. It'd be worth a shot. And they basically, and I spelled out everything. Here's the VIN. I hear you have this TSB. I think the fact that I called it a TSB turned the guy off, right? Like how, this is my area, right? Right. And I said, just tell me, here's the VIN, here's the TSB number. The mileage is this, we bought it new, on this date. Just tell me if it's under this extended warranty. And I guess maybe what I didn't explain is, till 10 years or 120,000 miles, they will fix this thing.
Yeah, you had that in your back pocket ready. Yeah.
Had it in my back pocket. No, you've got to bring it in and diagnose it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's the P2015 code, right? And then, so I thought, well, I'm going to call this place up in Fort Collins called Ed Carroll. So this is the little Porsche dealership that I mentioned before. And this is an interesting place because they're old school in the fact they're a Volkswagen Audi dealership who has like 2 or 3 Porsches in the back, right? You just don't see that in the States anymore. It's kind of how things used to be, right?
It's one
so
or
I
the
give
other.
them a lot of credit. Yeah, and the guy gets on, shout out, Rick was his name, and he said, yeah, I can check that for you. And within 5 minutes, couldn't have been more pleasant, said, yes, in fact, your car is under warranty. Just bring it in. We'll have that part in stock. You can come in the morning, be done that afternoon. Couldn't have been nicer, easy peasy, it makes all the difference in the world. So lesson learned or lesson confirmed or whatever.
that's the turning point, because now you've used him and you've got great service. You're going to go back again, and the other
That's
guys
right.
have lost out. My wife doesn't like coming with me when I take cars for services because I always ask questions and I never get the answers that I like. And I end up drilling a little bit deeper. And she's like, just leave it, it's fine. I'm like, it's not fine. We have to get this sorted. So,
I can only imagine what you must be like. I mean, do you like throw it out there when you walk in? Like, listen, do you know who I am? I'm
no,
going to call
not
you
at
on your
all,
bullshit.
because I
I
don't think
probably
I'm
know more than
anybody.
you do.
So,
Okay.
but it's when you
Do you,
start drilling into it, they tend to sense something sometimes, and they're like, why are you asking this? And you start
yeah.
to say some more, and they're like, yeah, they get pretty defensive, and you've got to choose your moment. Then do you go in
Yeah.
big, or do you just back away? So
Yeah. 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 But I bet your bullshit meter is just always on the ready or at the ready. And
it's rare that I've gone into a service department and haven't smelt BS from this first second. So
no, it's,
it winds me up a treat. So
yeah, it's fine. And I go in like I do know what I'm talking about, and most of the time I don't because I am not a wrench. I am not an automotive engineer like you. But it's so frustrating. And the value in a good dealership is priceless. Friends at a
yeah,
dealership, who are going to watch
yeah.
out for you.
Oh yeah,
Just circle this back, Porsche Colorado Springs. I mean, just never once had an issue there. They're always just a class act,
yeah.
and yes, they're the dealer doing this event, right? And other things like this. They're enthusiasts. So shout out
So
to
what are you going to do?
John,
Well, firstly,
Justin.
let me ask: when you go to a
Yeah.
car event and you don't take your baby, do you feel different when you turn up? Do you park in a different place? Do you?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I
It's
definitely
sad,
drove
isn't it? I'm the
around the corner
same.
to park. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny, and I got hell from grief from some friends there too. Well, we all drove our Porsches. They're not a puddle of molten metal and plastic. When the event is done. With the rain.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're going to park your car, that's the one place you're probably not going to get bumped. You're not going to get dinged. At a Porsche gathering. But
Yeah.
I have this mortal fear of hail here in Colorado, and June is the peak month. I've lost a car in the past to hail. Hail is no joke. It wasn't really in the forecast, but even in the Tiguan, I brought my moving blanket. It's just, I'm telling you, like, it's
Can
just,
you imagine if you're at that event
ingrained.
and then the hail did fall? It would be like a mass exit of everyone running
Oh
out
my
to cover their
God.
cars,
Yeah.
or
Well, just the vehicles that were at this event, right? The
oh, I was
cars,
going
and
to
not
ask.
just
Yeah,
Porsche people, all kinds of people, right? All kinds of different cars, Nissan Skyline, R34s and all kinds of
nice.
stuff.
Yeah,
The millions of dollars that would be, lost, right? Or potentially gained, I
written
guess,
off.
if you're in
Yeah,
the auto body industry. But no, it's funny. We all, like, here in Colorado, we all know to check the forecast. There's a hail app that we use because
right.
it's no
It's real.
joke. But yeah, it was like a lot of these events. The parking lot was as good as the show in a lot of ways,
Oh, I
right?
bet.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so I mentioned the steering committee, and if you're not familiar, with us, the Road Show, if you're new to the show, I did something called the steering committee for 4.5 years. Shout out Doug Fogler, who was my partner. We did 185 episodes, 1.5 million downloads. But that show had lived its life, and of course, I wanted to continue doing this. And met you. You were a guest of ours on the steering committee
Yeah.
there at the end, and we discussed after the fact that, hey, it might be fun to work together, and that's kind of why we're here today. And but you bring a lot more to the table than I do. I'll be honest.
No,
If you
not at
don't,
all. You're the anchor man here. So on
well,
the sideshow. So you're right.
well,
It,
you're the
it's
guy with the
it's an
CV, so
it's an interesting journey, this, because I've lived in the design office for so many years, and working the long hours trying to get designs out, working with suppliers, working with test teams and internal teams like Dynamics on different programs, and you kind of feel like you're missing out a lot. So now my goal is to try and enjoy the automotive industry, car shows, get obviously to know people in different events, talk to some of um, the people who are driving cars, and just hearing all the stories, and even just going out to shows. You're like, I'm working at McLaren again now, and you're meeting so many McLaren owners, and you get to talk to them. How have you found your experience? What annoys you? What do you like?
yeah.
You go to Lamborghini drivers, you ask the same thing. So I'm learning a lot for my daytime job doing this as well. So it's a bit of a journey for me to come out from the design office a little bit more. Like you and I both still have daytime jobs. I work at McLaren. You obviously work.
Don't.
What your backdrop says, you've got some toys. You're not a mechanic. You don't run a garage, but so you have a daytime job as well in a creative space. So yeah, we're doing this because we love cars and just want to talk to people about cars and enjoy different, events. So it's a personal thing we're doing here.
Ellen, I imagine for you, you were so embedded for so long. It was kind of like forest for the trees, right? Like, you were so involved, so into it, you never really got a chance to step back. I mean, you have quite the CV, McLaren F1, Mercedes F1, McLaren road cars. I met you when you were at Rivian out in California, at Bruce Meyer's place, as some of you listening might know. But it's not like you took time off between these roles. I mean, these were like quick turn.
Literally finish one job, on Friday, start the next place on Monday, and you normally go to the next place because they have a contract or a program and they need to get going, so it's they want you to join as fast as possible. And then you have this spike of like all-nighters and, flying around to different places, sorting out different problems. So, but when we met, obviously it was at Bruce Meyer's, loft, penthouse. It was insane. And, he's such a cool guy. He's like, I just bought one car a year for 50 years. And now he's got an insane collection. I find that so inspiring. And you had just finished doing a show with him. And for anyone who hasn't listened, it's worth going back to the steering committee and listen to the Bruce Meyer show. It's, just the guy is royalty.
He really is. And I was telling some folks at Porsche Colorado Springs about this last night. Oh, you had, Bruce Meyer, you had Bruce Meyer on the show, and I was telling them what a nice guy he is and how we had an hour scheduled with him and how it was him that met us at the door. And then, after an hour and we were cleaning up, he said, well, why don't you stay for a while? And I think it was 4.5 hours or something when all was said and done.
And the universe delivered because we walked in, we overlapped and we met each other.
That's right.
Become good friends since. And
that's right.
I approached you about helping me do this, and you went, well, now it could be a good time for me as well. And we joined forces to do this. So hopefully it's, it's interesting. A lot of people are reaching out and are keen to listen. So it's been a fun journey. We've learned a lot about doing this because obviously before it was audio only. Now we're doing video. Yep. So it's, new software, new things you need to do. Obviously, we see ourselves now, so we're very critical. You've got your elliptical trainer. I've got a gym membership.
You probably see it back there,
It's good for both of us. So we're normal blokes,
That's right. That's right. No, and I've got a long journey there too. But it's funny how lazy you get when you're not on video, right? And then it's kind of a shock to the system, right? When you are again. Yeah. But this really is. I just want to emphasize that this really is a passion project for us. We do have day jobs. I mean, it's a nice balance to those and the stresses and everything else. But we bleed cars, right? And this is a place we can continue to talk about them and have some of our good friends on. And I mean, you're the man with the golden Rolodex too, so there's that. So I'm very excited to see who we can catch on the web. Yeah,
but I don't have enough money to buy Willow Springs yet and create our own Top Gear style test track. It's up for sale. Whoever's got a few million in their pocket. So
haven't we all fantasized about just this kind of thing? Yeah. You see these real estate listings where maybe someone has a go-kart track, they're out in the country, have a few acres. They have this is like next level. If you don't mind living out in the desert, right?
Yep. A small price to pay to have your own racetrack, and invite all your buddies around. Small price.
We were speculating. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go on. I was going to say, too much to talk about so soon. I was going to say you got thermal. That's and maybe another way of doing it where they, you buy your condos around the edge of a track. So if you're buying cars that aren't road registered and they're insane, you can just roll them out and down pit lane and away you go. Yep. That's not a bad life as well.
I think that's the move. You buy this place and then you go and you do the condos and you do the storage and stuff. I mean, the cost of just even storing a car anymore is crazy. They can't sell enough of these condos and everywhere I've ever been. It seems like everyone who buys one 5 years later, it's worth twice as much. It's better than Nvidia stock. And I think this is the move. But we were speculating before we started record here, like why it's being sold. I think it was an old older man who had it. He passed away. I think the family is selling it, is what I understand.
Right.
I imagine that running a track and keeping it profitable and all the challenges, it doesn't matter where you are.
Got to be a personal labor of love.
It's got to be a passion project. And I feel like any track anymore, even the tracks that were out in the country, are now being, enveloped by, by development and I mean, case in point, the track, if I had to claim a home track, if you want to call it that, it'd be a Road America. I've never raced there or anything, but that was the track that we visited when I was growing up, my dad and me. And it's a beautiful legacy classic track up there with Lime Rock and some of these other East Coast tracks.
Have you taken the GT4 around it?
I have not. No, I've never actually driven it, and that's the sad part. I've never actually driven it. I've just been a spectator there. It's although I got to say, when we back, and I assume they still do this, but one of the best parts about going to see, an SCCA race or a vintage race, at Road America was they would always do a spectator lap before each race. But spectator lap is underselling it, Ellen, because you bring your personal car, so obviously some sports cars, and then things like Nissan Maximas and Jeep Wranglers and everything in between, and so it was always many more laps than one, and on paper there was always supposed to be a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit or something, but you would
go when you can.
Oh yeah, no, it was. After a lap or two, people get comfortable. Then the pace car would start going, and it was the most entertaining part of any race day was watching these family cars full of families with a terrified mom and kids, and the dad's got a big smile on his face,
That's a great idea.
The Camry's whining, it's just it was, but that's a great track, and I mention it because it's in a small town, and they've had the good fortune of being in a small town, Elkhart Lake, sort of north of Milwaukee, call it between Milwaukee and Green Bay. A beautiful location, and they call it the Kettle Moraine, so it's hilly. And I think for many years there wasn't much going on in Elkhart Lake, but now it's picked up again as a resort destination, and I think they're starting to have those issues like all tracks do of sound and all this stuff.
Noise.
And you couldn't replicate this place out in a cornfield is what I'm getting at, right? And but the constant challenges of just trying to keep the doors open on a place, right?
Yeah. So if the guy who owned Willow Springs passed away and the family have sort of taken control, it's not their passion project, and they're like, well, we could just cash in, and we can get money and we can go, live our Kardashian lifestyle somewhere else. So
that's right.
Hopefully,
do you know what the
go on?
Sorry, do you know what the cost is? Do you happen to know what they're asking?
I heard someone say it's only a couple of million. I say only a couple of million. I would have expected it to be like 10, 20, but
okay,
I
heard
know how
double
far away from
digits.
civilization it is. So
yeah, no, and you've never been there, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, yeah, well, maybe field trip
But it's
sometime.
iconic, isn't it? It's like it'd just be criminal to let it go away. Like I live near Brooklands, which was the first motor racing circuit in the UK, this massive banked circuit, and obviously years ago, I can't remember. It's probably something like 60s or 70s. They sold it to a property developer, and they basically cut most of the banking away, and it's all just housing estate. And it wouldn't be so bad if it was nice housing estate, but it's pretty average, architecture. And so now, you see it, it's just epic. It's,
hallowed
so
ground.
big and so steep.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. And it's such a shame. And I'm kind of pleased that actually, Mercedes bought the land that was left, and they have a Mercedes-Benz World in the middle. So it's,
okay.
It's not just it is a showroom, but it's kind of like like lots of different things. There's two different restaurants, a restaurant and cafe.
Nice.
They have different cinemas and shows and museums, and you test track there so you can go and drive new models.
Oh, cool.
And it kind of works. When the kids were younger, we used to say, hey, what do you want to do today? And they were like, we want to go to Mercedes-Benz World. And you sit there and go, wow, the concept works, And now my daughter works for Mercedes selling cars. Yeah, right, exactly. So... yeah, it would just be a shame if we lost Willow Springs because of the history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And every place I've ever lived, there have always been a couple of old tracks, right? In the woods, or to your point, under the footprint of a neighborhood or something, A couple iconic tracks in the Chicago area, even here in Colorado. I mean, and it's happening now. It's not quite the same, but there is a famous drag strip that's been here. It's in the foothills, kind of near Red Rocks, Vladimir Speedway, that's been there for years. I think the ownership claims that they're sort of being pressured out, but also money talks, and I think that's really what's happening here. And they're selling for some outrageous amount, $55 million or something. Hey, if I owned a racetrack and then I had a racetrack over here and $55 million over there, I mean, it'd be, I think the thing is, to circle back, I think it's really hard to make a profit with any sort of racetrack. The expenses, the insurance are just so great. Someone told me through the grapevine that Willow Springs, the profit each year was like in the hundreds of thousands, and that's when they made a profit, right? So, we're not talking about huge figures here, and and I don't know that that's true. I'd like to see something on paper, I guess.
Yeah,
but
and you
it's
take a couple of years like COVID as well, where they couldn't do anything.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's a killer.
That's all it takes. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I sent you a link to something, make a complete topic change here, but last minute addition to this show. I got such a kick out. Sometimes, Alan, when I'm at work, I'm in a meeting and I just need some cheap internet sort of fodder, right? I go to the NewYorkPost.com, which is, so it might be true, right? But it's a rag, and they talked today about the headline: Putin gifts car buck. Say that again. Putin gifts car buff Kim Jong-un a fancy limousine and a dagger in Putin's visit to North Korea.
So I think that's really cool, and it was on the news here in the UK as well.
Okay,
so it's probably the only bit of news I did watch. And so, firstly, car buff. Like, does he have a collection, or is
I want to know, because there are embargoes, right?
Yeah,
I know he's got like a nice Benz.
Well, he can get around anything, can't he? So he's probably got like a warehouse full of Lamborghinis or something that we don't know about. So.
Right. Remember the Sultan of Brunei back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s? He had quite the collection, but then later found out half the cars were out rotting in the sun or were pushed off the dock. The humidity
that they have there as well. It's just a horrendous environment. I remember even as a kid growing up, I used to think he was like this mythical guy that he was just buying like 99 Rolls Royces for his family or
right.
Like, who does that? So,
but they'd be like Rolls Royce, shooting brakes, right? And like Aston Martin, like wagons and these like crazy
special editions and weird and wonderful.
Yeah. Sometimes they work, sometimes not so much. But I honestly,
he's funded the British automotive industry for decades.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Through those lean years, not so lean with the Sultan of Brunei, but maybe that's what Kim Jong-un has going on, and we'll just find out later or something. But
I'd love to know if he's got a massive collection. But it's a nice looking car, like for what it is for that marketplace. It didn't look too shabby. It didn't have too much body roll. It's a big old thing. So,
but that's because it's a Rolls-Royce Phantom ripoff.
Exactly. But, you can make it look like something else. It doesn't mean it's going to drive like something else. So.
No. I'm pretty sure that the headlights are off a Chrysler 300, and there are probably some other bits off a Chrysler 300 as well. And I don't know if you weren't in the States yet when the Chrysler 300 was released, but that was literally coined the poor man's Rolls Royce. And so oftentimes people would up it a notch by putting like a Rolls Royce grill on it, because apparently they just unscrew and you could put a new one on. This has Chrysler 300 vibes to me. It's like a very tall Chrysler 300M or whatever, or maybe a Chrysler 300 combined with a Phantom of 15 years ago. But these pictures of the two of them behind the wheel just hamming it up, just having a good old time.
But they stopped halfway through and swapped places. It's like lads on a raz round the block. It was fantastic.
And I'm not making excuses for either two of these guys, but they seem genuinely into this thing. Also, have you ever gifted a pal a dagger?
No, no.
I haven't either.
That's a statement, isn't it?
I feel like there's some undertones there.
Yeah,
but. Anyway, no, I got a kick out of this thing. I mean, what a couple buffoons.
But something about my friends of gifted hip flasks and things like that before.
That's classy.
Yeah,
brass knuckles.
Yeah, no, they're just drunks. So
Is that why I get so many of them from friends?
yeah,
I'm on the receiving end. It's interesting. This article too has got some more photos of Kim Jong Un and some of his other cars, and he's got a late model like Maybach. How'd that happen?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's a statement, isn't it, for someone of his stature?
Yeah. But anyway, I got such a kick out of these guys rolling around like they're 16
You see
years
the
old.
smile; it's really genuine. I
Right,
think.
right. I mean, I'm glad that they can, that they have so little going on in their lives that they can find the time to go do donuts in a parking lot. But it's, I got a kick out of it. So I guess I'll leave it without trying to get too political. That enthusiasm is worldwide, right? It's a universal thing. Love for cars.
Yep. So you never finished the story so you've got the engine light on the Tiguan.
Oh,
but
sorry.
Are you going to sell it? And if so, what are you going to replace it with?
Well, again, I was kind of hoping it was going to be something catastrophic, right? Like, and
I
could have.
go. So.
I know. It's, those of you who know me or listen to the steering committee, we bought a new house within the last year. Daughter goes to private school. Denver's not cheap, whatever. Life has been kind of expensive lately. And so we thought we just dropped $4,000 into the Tiguan, tires, brakes, some other stuff, just to try to, full suspension, right? Just to try to get, another year out of it without a car payment. And I thought, all right, this is my chance. This light is on, Molly, bless her heart. She's going to believe whatever I tell her. Right. And so, I mean, this little flap or whatever. I mean, that basically means you need a new engine, right? I mean, is the
that's what I'm hearing.
You're the engineer,
Yeah.
But they're going to replace this thing at no charge. It's under warranty. But this may be a good opportunity.
So.
What's that?
It lives for another year.
We'll see. What happens is you take your car in for service, and this is why dealerships have service departments, right? Because before you leave with something else, right? And unfortunately, there's just nothing in the Volkswagen lineup right now. 7 years ago, when we bought this thing, we were kind of different. We were younger. We had different expectations for a car. Financially, probably in a little bit of a different position, and so I'd like to think that if we were to buy something now, we could upgrade. We really fell in love with this Volvo XC. Is it the 90, the hybrid SUV? We had one as a rental for a couple of days. I think my wife would very gladly drive that every day. It's probably a little too much car for us. Then you drop down to, is it the 70, which is the middle one, but that's been around forever. Like that thing that design's been around for 12 years or something. So that doesn't really interest me.
Is it the 40, the smaller one?
The 40 might be where it's at. That might be even smaller than the Tiguan. I'd have to drive on, but damn, that looks good.
I thought for sure you were going to say McCann. I thought, here we go.
If I were doing the voting here, and the electric Macan is compelling, but it's so damn expensive. I think we're probably more in the, the Polestar 2 / XC40 / Tesla Model 3 dual motor.
You were test driving Defenders the other day, so get on the phone. People,
right? Now. Right? I do. I actually need to get back to the fleet guy. I have thought about that Defender every day since I drove that car. We drove so many cars on that press drive. That is the one that haunts me, which is so weird because objectively probably the worst car there, but like also the car I'd want in my driveway. Like it's just something about that thing. It's just,
but
it's
then
got a
you
certain
say it's the worst car there because for day-to-day use, but if you can go out and do camping trips and off-road stuff, down some fire roads with the family or just have a blast on the way home from work.
Yes.
That's still a cool car to have. So
it is. If they made a true soft top, I know they have sort of like the sardine can back top, right? But if they made a true soft top, right, like a Wrangler style soft top, I think that increased the appeal to me.
JLR kind of get convertibles wrong. That like they did the Evoque.
I was going to just mention the Evoque.
You look at it and you go, I like to see who's driving what car when I drive down the road, and sometimes people look at you like, what are you looking at? And I'm just sort of trying to pair personality to cars. And you see people driving those and you go, nothing about a car. Like that is ugly. It's overpriced. It's, I don't find anything redeemable about that, redeeming about those vehicles. So,
the Murano convertible.
Yeah.
Is it the Murano? Yeah, the Murano, right? The
That was the
Nissan.
bigger one, and
The
yeah,
bigger one, right? The big Rogue or whatever,
yeah,
and I think to this day, I've only ever seen 3 or 4, ever. But
yeah.
I feel like that Evoque was sort of like, if it had a slightly better credit score, right, than the Nissan people, right? That's what you'd get, And
Yeah.
I might argue that the Nissan might actually be more attractive.
Yeah, they
That
did a
said,
performance version of the Murano. I don't know if it was globally, but in the UK, and they took it
okay,
to
not here,
a
no.
racetrack here, and it was badass.
No
It was really
kidding.
good,
Okay.
but it was crazy money, and I haven't seen
Yeah.
any of them. I don't know if it was just a marketing statement or
Huh.
something to
Huh. It was like a
help sell
Nismo
them.
version, a Nismo, whatever we're
Yeah,
saying it
yeah.
these
So
days.
Nismo
Yeah.
do a version of the Duke, which is a little bit like trim and
Yeah.
stickers and
Yeah.
decals,
Yeah.
and then yeah, it was a Nismo version of that. So I don't know if it was like a small run or,
Sure.
but it looked pretty cool.
Well, no, and I give Nissan props. I drove the new 370Z a bit last week on this drive. I mean, they haven't given up on performance. It's just unfortunate that they have sort of taken over that subprime lending, segment as well. Because I grew up, Alan, with in the 90s, right, with Nissan when they were just killing it. The 240 SX, the 300 SX, the old Pathfinder, right, with the triangle window, and the
Yeah.
Maxima, the 4-door sports car. I mean, their
Yeah.
lineup was for the
But then a
time
GTR as
fantastic.
well. Like
The
there's like
GTR, which I think is
yeah,
dead now in the U.S. Right, although I've heard this before, it's died a few deaths.
has it? Okay.
So we'll see. We had a guy at the Porsche thing last night who had and I don't know my Skylines, but it was probably an R33 or R34 who just kept going back and forth. It's like the race car drivers were trying to, he was doing pulls. He was, I like those cars, but I'm not sure I like all the people driving them. But anyway,
Yeah.
you know, I was at the dealership last night, and it crossed my mind that, speaking of cars that are dead, the internal combustion 718 is dead now. So no more GT4s. In fact, they haven't built a GT4 like mine since 23. They're done. You can still find a low mileage one or probably even a new one in stock somewhere, but they're obviously priced appropriately. I was kind of looking back at my GT4 experience, and I mean, have you ever driven a GT4? You're a Porsche owner. You've got a
No, I
beautiful
haven't.
new
A
Target.
friend of mine, Hamrish, has one, and we went for a blast in California before I left.
Okay.
So it was a great experience. It was a great car.
They're wonderful cars, and now I can't sell it, right, because they won't make them anymore.
Yeah.
Manual transmission, especially. I mean, this is probably a car to stick away. Like
Yeah, you need a bigger
Rolex
garage
or
now.
whatever. I do,
Yeah.
I do, and I also feel like a bad owner because I've had that car for it'll be 3 years this October. Was fortunate enough to actually 4 years, crazy. So in 3.5 years, I have just hit 10,000 miles. Meanwhile, my pal Dan McInnes, who won a GT4 3 months ago,
Oh yeah,
has
I saw
done
that.
more.
I listened to the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done more miles in those 3 months than I have in the 3.5 years. And he's still putting miles on his, 86,000 mile Spider, whatever it is, his
Yeah.
22. So I've got some driving to do. But I was, thinking back and, especially now a couple friends, a couple other, several friends here locally have 992s, whether it's a T or a GTS, a Targa, anything in between. And just how much more powerful those are, especially here at altitude, and maybe what a better package those things are. And I had such high hopes for the GT4, and honestly, it's fulfilled every hope. It's checked off every box, other than it's just kind of a pain in the ass to drive around town. You don't want to be in that car in traffic. It scrapes every time I come in and out of my driveway, right? Despite, the angle and the whatever. Get my protractor out, I'm still going to scrape, right? And so I've had
When
this
you call the
discussion.
kids and say, "Kids, put the blocks in the curb. Put the blocks in the curb."
That's right.
I'm
And then
almost home.
I'll pull out and there'll be someone walking the dog and just look at me like I'm being mean to the car, and I want to be like, it's a replaceable part, but it's been such a wonderful car. I guess I'm just kind of doing a look back at the last 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And is this the car I want to keep moving forward? Is there something that would be a better car for me? But now I can't sell it because they made this announcement there will be no more. And I'm not quite ready for an electric Cayman. So I guess I'll be keeping this in the meantime. Maybe I'll supplement it with just like a beater 996 or something that I can actually just get out and drive when it's raining and these
You
kinds
know,
of things.
what could you get? Like as you say, a Beta 996. Did they do the 4S as well?
They did, but those are, I want to say those are $40,000. Those never really came
Okay.
down because they was just a point two here in
Yeah.
the States.
Okay.
You know, John and Justin at Porsche Colorado Springs in their First Dibs podcast, they talk about that car has a unique sound. There's something
Yeah.
about that car, that 4S, that just sounds better than the rest of the 996s. And I guess I had never picked up on it personally, but they've driven a lot more miles in them than I have. So that's probably out of my price point. But even a cabriolet might be fun. Like maybe I go find a Tiptronic cabriolet.
You know, that's a great idea because you're not going to lose money on it, are you? It's going to be free motoring. So,
That's right.
and even just today, you know, I came out of work, the sun's out, hopped in, put the roof back, and cruise out, and you know, happiness levels, you know, increase. So, yeah, good fun.
Something about an open top, isn't there?
Yeah, but
It's
you
just,
could get a BMW and go and do some track days as well.
I could do that. Then I'd have to join the BMW club, and
Yeah.
you know.
Sorry about that. You have to get the funny glasses that you wear.
Right.
So.
So I'm hanging out. I'm waiting for Dan Pilling to show up. He's going to be here tomorrow for Pikes Peak. We're very excited. Dan he's not with us today, but he joins us on this show often. And Dan wears many coats, but one of them is with Dirtfish, and he'll be doing some work for Dirtfish. But he's so excited. One of the questions he asked me is do they allow grills, like charcoal grills?
Tailgate grilling, yeah.
You know, and I don't know if they do or not, but I don't want to tell them yes, even if they do, because I don't want to be the one that burns down Pikes Peak at the day of the hill climb. The wind whips up or something. But he's so excited. He wants to make a big thing of this, and so I'm kind of along for the ride. I'm going to be enjoying it. You know, we've got press passes, so I don't think we can drink, at least with the vest on. So that'll put a little bit of a
or something.
But you know, I'm 0 for 2 with these things.
It's been in your backyard for obviously ever, and but for someone coming in for it, like. It's huge from the old Audi videos. What was the movie called? Was it Sundance, where he puts his hand up to block the sun as he's steering one-handed drifting up the hill?
It's familiar, but I don't know. Yeah,
I'm going to send you a link. You need to have this. You need to know. So was it Ari Vatanen in an Audi Quattro?
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
It doesn't have the sun visor, so he's putting his hand up to block the sun as he's steering and drifting with his back wheel just kissing the edge of a 1,000-foot drop.
It's amazing.
And, it is amazing.
There's nothing like it. I've talked about this before, but it is such a down-home event in the very best way. And you've got these people running these, you know, home-built things, and you've got these fully supported factory teams and everything in between. And because of the nature of the thing, you know, it's not like 50,000 people are showing up, right? Again, this year they sold every ticket, right? Wow. But there's only so much space. There's only so much parking, right? It's just such a unique thing. And you know, like I said, I the last couple of years things just didn't work out when I've tried to attend. And so this year, third time's the charm. I'm going to soak it all in. We're going to go down and do the Fan Fest on Friday night.
Amazing.
You know, Conrad was kicked off with the event last night, but you know, and it's going to be great. Shout out John Deisty and, you know, that crew. We're going to hang out. Apparently he has a mobile a Bloody Mary backpack that you might have to hit after the event, but it's going to be a great time. And I just, you've never been up the mountain, even just like, you know, as a tourist, have you?
No, not at all. And I missed the opportunity when I was in the US. I had some time when I was wrapping up from Rivian, and I put a list of to-dos, and it was on the list, but I just couldn't get everything done in the time before I relocated back to the UK. So next year, I'm clear out your put a camp bed in the garage for me. I'm coming. So
we're in. All right, we're doing it. Because it's just, you know, you go up there and it does feel like you're on the top of the world, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people on Mount Everest looking down, but I mean, you're up higher than 99.9% of the people on Earth, right? And you're above the tree line, right? And sometimes you're above the clouds, right? And there's just there's nothing else like it. it is a spectacle in the same way that, you know, the Indy 500 is, right, or Le Mans or whatever. It is deservedly up there, and so yeah, you definitely will have to come next year, and hopefully we'll get to learn the ropes a little bit more this year, know where to stand, and kind of who's who, and
where the after parties are, and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you just don't get the chance to rub shoulders with the drivers and the teams in the same way at so many of the other events, right? I mean, you mentioned going to Monaco, right? I mean, you know, you've got to do like a biometric scan to get through to some of those events, right? So
Do you know, I have to say though, when we were there, we were walking up the hill to Casino, and we just wanted to hang out there on Saturday night. And as we're walking up, Damon Hill is walking down, you know, and you just
really,
all the past and present champions are there. They're either on scooters, you know, or push bikes, and it's crazy. Just a bowl of automotive history. So, yeah.
well, and you've got a wonderful event you're going to.
So I've got so many things planned. So it's a Goodwood Revival, Goodwood Festival of Speed, Silverstone Grand Prix. It's crazy. I even looked today at Formula E. So are you familiar with Formula E?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So it happens in the heart of London because, you know, it's more manageable in building or circuits they can use. There's no pollution, there's no noise. And I thought, I'll just go to that. I'll pick up a couple of tickets. It'll be interesting because it's full of ex-Formula One drivers or DTM and touring car drivers, and sold out. So it's like, wow, how am I late to the party on this? So people knew before me.
And people are interested in watching electric race cars. So
Yeah.
proof's in the pudding. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, when we meet again, we'll have some good stories, I'm sure. I'll take lots of pictures. I'll be posting to
hopefully our friends
Instagram.
Dan and Lindsay can join us as well, and we can hear their experiences.
I look forward to it. Well, we should probably wrap this one up, but this was a fun one, Alan. There's a lot going on. I'm getting that excitement back. It's fun to be able to talk about it again, you know? So
yeah, good. We've got we've got lots going on. Good guests coming. It's gonna be fun.
Watch this space. All right. Well, Alan, thank you. All right. Until next time, we're the Road Show.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.